Welcome to another episode of the Go With John Show. We have Michael Schnitzer, President, Stanley Martin Custom Homes, back with us again today. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, John. Good to be with you.
Good. So, Michael, tell us, we're at the end. This is kind of a special episode. So we are sitting here today right after Labor Day 2022. It's been an interesting year, and a lot of great things are happening at Stanley Martin Custom Homes and at Stanley Martin. So maybe give us a little bit of a market update. What's going on?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just talk about our parent company for just probably 2 minutes,
Sure.
whatever. But believe it or not, they're hitting their goals in terms of starts and sales and settlements. They're really focused on the manufacturing aspect and more about driving down cycle time, getting more efficiencies. So they're doing a little bit of a paradigm shift, and they tested the construction of a house after the foundation was poured, and were able to manufacture the house, not a prefab.
Right.
But manufacture the house within a closed environment and get it trade ready in 1 day.
Wow.
So that means they brought out cranes, the windows were already in the walls, blah 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 blah. So it's basically put on the floors, put on the stand up the walls, roof trusses, stairs, windows, exterior doors, all in 1 day.
Right. So when you say drive down cycle time, you're talking about the cycle from start of construction to finish, right?
So, but that so it drives down cycle time. It's from an environmental perspective, it's less material waste.
Right.
From a cleanliness perspective, right, when your nails and all that stuff out in the field, right, less debris, less waste. And there was something else I was going to say about that. Oh, and it's in a closed environment, right? So you're not getting rain and,
So basically the house is built in a factory and it's delivered to the job site and then stood up.
In components, right.
Yeah.
It's not like, you see a 40-foot wide house on a big semi driving down. It's
not a double wide.
No. It's a full crane setup and whatever. So I think that's coming to a theater near you in the next couple of years to customs.
Right.
We're just going to have to figure out as it's implemented, okay, how do we get right-of-way permits to, on a smaller street? Can we close down the street, for 6 or 8 hours and put the house up?
I would think that the neighbors on a street would love to have 1 day of noise and commotion versus 3 months.
Yeah,
or
and I think on wider streets, it's just flagmen and whatever, and just closing a portion of the street.
Yeah.
In a two-directional street. Yeah,
Sure.
Anyway, I think that's coming to a theater near you. On the custom side, ironically, we're keeping up with sales. Yeah, we've had a couple cans, but we have that all the time.
Right.
We're still generating sales. I think because of our largesse and our stability, people feel comfortable, working with Stanley Martin Custom Homes, and for a plethora of other reasons. We can certainly get into that. But interestingly, we are starting more houses this year than perhaps ever before. Some of it may have had to do with helping a customer getting subdivided, blah, blah, blah. But for a combination of reasons, we've had to bring in more project managers and get the back office to focus more in helping production because we're so busy.
Yeah,
It's a great problem to have.
It is. And, it reminds me back in 2006, 2007, when the market was crashing and everybody was having such a difficult time, our business was booming. And we seemed to do extremely well under challenging conditions. I think the more challenging the conditions are in the world, the more new home buyers want to build with a reputable company that's been around for a long time, that has a huge corporation behind them. So Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we're building 30, 40, 50 homes a year.
Right.
But we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Stanley Martin that's building thousands and thousands of homes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really helps us in times like
and
this.
certainly smaller builders that fit within our niche.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they got to work on the draw. They've got to make sure they're funding their company.
Right.
Here, we're just so well heeled, it doesn't.
Exactly.
I mean, it matters because we want to get
Yeah.
paid, but it doesn't matter in terms of, when we get paid.
Right.
Per se.
Exactly. And I think it also helps with our back office. We have a team of folks that are managing the supply chain, which really is not so much of a challenge anymore. We have some challenges. You want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, I think
I think it really depends on the product. I think for the most part, we're out of the woods, so to speak. Stanley Martin has a window, not Stanley, it isn't owned by Stanley Martin, but we partnered with a company, and so this company built a facility to only manufacture Stanley Martin windows.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about
windows,
supply chain, blah, 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 other builders trying to gobble up, the manufacturing facility. So that certainly helps. But we build production homes and we build custom homes. Mm-hmm. And depending on how far afield you go with your product selections, you could still run into supply chain challenges. I don't want to say issues, but just much longer lead time, right? Yeah. So a normal window order, if you were building a Stanley Martin company's house with their products, would probably be 3 or 4 weeks, right? So it's really no big deal. You just order the windows when you're getting ready to start, and boom.
And that's because we have our own facility now.
Yeah.
There's a dedicated factory that only builds Stanley Martin windows.
Right.
Exactly.
And then, but let's say a customer, just use Anderson, it could be Pella, it could be whatever, right? But there we are more, and they are more constrained, right? So it still could take 4 months for windows and or doors, depending on what type of manufacturer. But we know that, and so we plan accordingly. So, in a prototypical environment, we start construction and we order our materials. Mm-hmm. In an environment where somebody is ordering a Anderson or some other type of window, we may have to pre-order several months in advance of ever starting construction.
Right.
So we adapt to the environment, so to speak.
Right. Cool. No, it's good. It's fun to be able to do that. So what else do you see in the market right now? So if we just on the theme of the market update, what is your I know it's hard to predict the future, impossible, but what do you see evolving here in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months in our industry?
Well, there's macro and micro economics. Mm-hmm. So the DC market's completely constrained, right, in terms of there is a lack of housing for the demand of buyers, right? I mean, you can say it just in how much rent is for apartments, right? Because it just keeps exploding. People they can't find houses, and so there's more demand on apartments and whatnot. So certainly there's some challenges out there, but the fundamentals are still strong. People have families. Mm-hmm. They need to live somewhere. They want to buy a house. Mm-hmm. They also say, oh, geez, well, boy, that rent is high. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should look at buying a house. So you still have that kind of interplay within our environment. Right.
So and we're busy. So we have a lot of folks that are coming in that are exploring building a home with us, and we have a lot of folks coming in that are actually going through our process. Right. And I think one of the number one questions that I'm getting right now is how long, and I know it varies in different jurisdictions, but people want to know, if I sign up with you guys right now and I go through the process in a prototypical timeline, how long is it taking to before I move into my home?
Sure. So I think we're back to our standard kind of spiel, if you will.
Right.
So from the time we get a permit to move in, I would say nominally 6 months, maybe it's 7, maybe it's 8. And part of it is how big is the house, right?
Right.
We're currently building some huge houses
Right.
that just take a little bit longer than a house, right? So a 10,000 square foot house, I'm just using this nominally, isn't necessarily going to take you twice as long as a 5,000 square foot house, but it is going to take you a little longer.
Right.
So I would say still mentally think 6 months. It could be 7 or 8 months, right? On the permitting side, which is what you were kind of hedging a little bit with your discussion, I still say from the time a customer removes their contingency until we get a permit, plan on 4 to 6 months.
Right.
4, I would see, would be the absolute earliest, and perhaps almost like a 10% chance, right? It's not going to happen often.
Right.
But could it be more than 6 months? Absolutely, right? I know that, for instance, both Fairfax and Montgomery counties, they're slammed, right? And they're short-staffed, right? So it's a labor shortage market. So if you're working as for instance, a reviewer at the county making X, but you can get a different job making X plus, you may leave the county maybe for the private sector or whatever. We are seeing some latency or some, a little bit of an increase, uptick on how long it's taking to get permits out of the county.
Right. So roughly could be 1 year.
Yeah, I would say 1 year would be your rough.
Yeah.
I would say always, and we've said this all along, budget a year and a half.
Right.
But there are jobs where it could take 2 years, right? So,
and a lot of that too depends on the customer, right?
Right.
Because there are a larger home that has a lot of custom changes in it is going to
takes a longer to develop the plan,
right,
and to work through
nuances.
Selections.
Yeah, selections and nuances.
Right.
Yep.
So we have some customers that will have a meeting with us to pick their finishes and can basically do it in a day.
Right.
Right, because it's, here are our light fixtures and here are our plumbing fixtures, blah, 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 right? And so we kind of consolidate everything down, and typically they'll leave that meeting with, I like this package, or I like this package, I just need to marinate, and then I'll be ready to sign.
Right.
But then we have other customers where one meeting just may be on the
tip
kitchen,
of the iceberg.
the kitchen layout that may have several iterations after just that one meeting.
Right.
So it can be soup to nuts.
Yeah.
It's the customer's experience, right?
Yep.
And what they want to do.
Exactly. So let's touch a little on price stability. What is going on in the pricing market? Because our prices have gone up, they've come down, they've gone up, they've come down. So what are you seeing right now? So we've got our prices posted online. We're gonna take a break in a minute. Then when we come back, we're gonna talk about the free rec room incentive and things that we're doing there. But what are you seeing from a pricing perspective in the market now?
My hope, I'm gonna knock on wood, is that we've hit the apex of inflation as it relates to building products. That's my hope.
Right.
And hopefully we're starting to turn down. Or at least stabilize, right? So maybe it's not. So from a labor perspective, the labor market is still very tight.
Yeah. And so once a company raises their salaries for you can't give people a pay cut, not in this environment.
No way.
Right.
No way. There's too many companies chasing too few people.
Yeah.
So the labor element, I would say, I don't even know if it plateaus. It could still go up just based on inflation and blah, 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 right?
Right.
The material element, I hope, has apexed and plateaued. Now, certainly commodities like lumber can go up or down, but we've seen a precipitous drop in lumber, and sheathing
Right.
and whatever. And so that's reflected in our pricing. And hopefully, as the world economy stabilizes, commodity prices stabilize.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the customization fee. We've always given our
Right.
customers the ability to customize, and we have very affordable pricing. And I think our subcontractors are raising their prices to us on customizing. So what does it now take if somebody wants to customize a home?
Right.
How does the program work?
So let me just back up and say, and you're absolutely right. We were saying, how can we offer a house, right? A Stanley Martin home, still give a customer a great experience, but do it more in I'm going to use the word production, but in a production builder mindset, right?
Following the Stanley Martin program.
Yeah,
Their policies and
exactly.
procedures. Yep.
So when we build a custom home, we have so many different meetings and reviews, and it's enormous. Just gathering pricing and information and cut sheets and whatever. And so we said, well, how can we trim the fat, if you will, from at least an overhead perspective, phase one.
Right.
And we said, okay, let's offer these homes in a more Stanley Martin production mentality. And what does that do to the price? Right?
Right.
And so that's reflected in our current pricing because we have stripped all the overhead that would be really geared to a custom customer.
Right.
Right. So just in selections, right?
Yep.
So instead of maybe 1 or 2 selections, a custom customer could have 10, could have 15.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of in a production environment where you really don't have non-standard options, for a custom customer, we may have hundreds. Right. And that's, we got to.
It costs
it's
money.
A burden on the company, which we're happy to do.
Right.
But we also, we have unit cost, but a lot of times these custom changes are custom features.
Right.
So now we have to we have interplay with all of our trades.
Right.
And that takes them time.
Right.
And so I would say, generally speaking, there is now a adder or a fee if you want to customize of tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
Versus for a long time we didn't charge anything.
But
that was in an effort.
It was a $5,000 fee, which really, in the scheme of things,
It was actually nothing.
Right.
So at the highest level, how can we offer our product at the most affordable price? And certainly this was a absolute great way.
Right.
And somewhat of a paradigm shift because we've been operating under the same principle for so long.
Right.
But in this environment, right, where we want to drive pricing down, it was certainly a way to do so.
We want to drive pricing down, and we want to drive the cycle time down.
Yeah.
Right.
So that,
for our homeowners.
Yeah. So, I wasn't even thinking about that. So it has almost like unintended consequences, which is if you're not having to make all these decisions. So if you can take 1,000 decisions and turn it into 10,
Right.
the velocity of going through I'm going to call it the startup phase is exponentially shorter.
Right. So the startup phase is shorter and the build cycle is shorter.
Right. And that gets into the second element, which is if a trade is going out, and we'll just use the framer analogy, right? A framer has built house X, I'm going to exaggerate, 1,000 times, but it could be hundreds and hundreds, right? So the framer, they know the house
inside
in their
now.
mind.
Yeah.
So they can go in, build the house, frame the house, and get out very quickly, right? Let's just pick 3 days, whatever, right? And they really don't have to come back except for doing some punch out at the end, which is part of the building industry. Now take a house that may be a derivative of that house, right? Where we customize, we blew it out, we blah, blah, blah. So now the framers have to study the plan. They know that there could be some anomalies, right? Because it's really becomes a one of a kind.
Yes.
Right? It's a one-off. So there's more labor. There's more return trips.
Yep.
So now take that and multiply it through all of the trades, and now you start to see, the added costs. Forget the product cost, just the added labor cost.
Right.
And that's, we've done the same thing when we talk about labor. There's the labor physically of hammering nails into wood, right? But there's also the labor of, what's the cost or the price of X, right? So from a framer analogy, if we're building house X, they don't have to price anything out. We already have all the pricing.
Right.
If it's a different house, now they got to get their estimator involved, and so now they've got more overhead. So it's all about trying to trim the fat out of the process to lower the price.
Right. And the cycle time.
Yep. Yeah.
Good. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. Michael, great information. Thanks for coming in. We will be right back. More with Michael Schnitzer, president of Stanley Martin Custom Homes. I remember who he is. A lot of folks think that building a custom home is a complicated and arduous process. It doesn't have to be. At Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we have the process down to a science. We will bring you through the buying, design, and building phase one step at a time. Head on over to webuildonyourlot.com and check us out. Reach out to us if you want to get started on the path to your very own Stanley Martin custom home. All right, welcome back. We still have Michael Schnitzer with us, president of Stanley Martin Custom Homes.
Hey, John.
So Mike, we are busy. We have lots and lots of people coming in and wanting new homes. So tell us, who are our customers?
Good question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure that out. Nah, I'm just kidding. So I would say, if I were to kind of take a pie and cut it, right, that probably 3/4 of the pie are people that either need to age in place,
Right.
need to have a space for potentially an in-law or an elderly parent to in the future move into,
Right.
to take care of. And then we have a whole different segment of people who are multi-generational.
Right.
And so, it just keeps growing every year.
Right.
Maybe it's not 75% of our customers, but it is a big slice of our customers.
Right. And we have a huge, I think, group of people who are families that are growing out of their homes, right? That you have a couple who bought a home maybe in North Arlington, and it's a 1,100 square foot Rambler, and
now they have three or four kids.
Exactly. And they literally call us and they say, John and Mike, we have got to do something.
We have to stop living in our closet.
Exactly. Right. People tell us that they've got their office in their closet. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So you've got the families that are just literally growing out of their houses. They love their neighborhood.
Right.
They hate the home. Right. And they need a new house. We have the multi-gen families where you have 2 or 3 generations living in one home.
Absolutely.
And they all need their own space, and they want a great living space where they can all come together and meet as a family and have dinner and all that. And then we have the aging in place folks who are maybe in their 50s or 60s, and they say, hey, I want to build a new house. We don't want to have to move out of this because we're 75, right? We want to stay here.
Right.
So let's just kind of hit on those real quick. So
and the other thing is just the new work from home, whether it's full-time or part-time.
Absolutely.
So there's got to be space for home office or home offices.
Right.
And in some cases, it needs to be kind of like a quiet area or separated. So you got all this, multi-gen, multi-aging, blah, 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 family. Right. You got working at home. And we're hearing and we recognize that it's great to have a nice kitchen morning room and a great dining room or family room. Mm-hmm. But there's so much activity. People they want a larger area to congregate, right? When they want to come together as a family unit.
Right.
And they also want an area that's maybe a little bit separate. So if they are congregating, but not everyone,
right.
Mr.
And you're really
or
talking
Mrs.
about
is,
the multi-gen right now.
yeah, well, it could be multi-gen, or at some level, it could be something our customer has 4 kids and they're
Right.
blah 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 age, and they're coming over to play,
Yeah.
but he or she is working from home, and
Yeah.
so we recognize that this is a growing trend, and one of the things that that we looked at is how do we incorporate this and incentivize our customers to really take a close look at Stanley Martin. And so there's a limited time for this, but we worked with our trades and came up with a way to include the lower level rec room as part of the base price.
Right.
So you call it a free rec room, whatever, but we realized the trend. We realized that people been cooped up
Yes.
and are bursting, so they need more space. So that just, it was just kind of a no-brainer for us to do. And, like you were saying, love our neighborhood, hate our house. In some cases, people are also building finished attics because the house width, especially for whether it's Bethesda or Arlington or wherever, may only be 30 feet wide.
Right.
And they, yes, they're maximizing their space, but they still need more space.
Right.
So I guess you and I get, I don't know how many inquiries a week where people just are, I looked at, maybe renovating or, something out, or looking for a new house, and none of it seems feasible. And they come to us, and those are obviously our easiest customers because
Right.
they're bursting at the seams and they have to do something.
Right.
And they recognize that renovation just doesn't get them there. It's not a
Yeah.
good return on investment, and it's costly.
Right. So if we're going to just run through some really quick things, because we have another episode where you and I spoke at length about floor plans and choosing the right floor plan. So folks that want to hear that can go find that episode. But highest level, most of the folks that come in, if we were to break up a pie chart, I think the largest segment, they want some sort of an office or a bedroom on the main level that could be a combination room with a full bath, right? That's
Correct.
so you want your living space on the main level, and you don't necessarily want the owner's bedroom, but you want some sort of a space that can be used as a bedroom, and maybe some folks will use it as an office.
Well, but John, it also depends on the customer profile, right?
Right.
Because some customers who are, have younger kids, they want to live. They want to sleep on the second floor, owner's
Yes.
bedroom, blah, blah, blah. But then we have other customers where the owner's suite is on the first floor.
Right.
Because they're, I don't want to say elderly, but they're in their 60s. They're like,
Right.
my knees are giving out or
Right.
whatever. So
Or I
we
just
do
don't
have
want to
those
walk
too.
upstairs anymore.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was actually heading that direction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's all right. So we've got plans organically from Stanley Martin that have a main level bedroom, and it's not a custom change.
Nope.
You can buy a house with a main level bedroom because there's such a strong market demand for that type of product. We listen to our customers, we have it. So then we have the first floor owner suite. We have lots of floor plans. We only have a few online, but we have
Right.
other floor plans that are not online
Right.
that are first floor owner suites. So for that buyer profile, we have organic floor plans that don't need custom changes that you can buy that hit that first floor owner's need for those buyers.
Right.
And then we have the multi-gen homes. We have 2 great homes that are really popular, our Morgan model, and we have our Travis, which are great for multi-gen.
And our Russell.
And our Russell model,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So we have
Actually, we have more than that. We even have some 42 wides that are multi-gen.
right, but I don't think they're online. So I think they're offline. Maybe online, maybe offline.
I think they're online.
Okay.
I think maybe the Finn or anyway.
Okay.
So
So we have them.
Yeah.
So here you've got the owner suite on the main level. You've got an option for a second owner suite on the second level. So if you have a multi-gen situation, may look like, mom and dad, who are the grandparents, right, living in the main level. Then you have one of their kids who's married and has kids living on the second floor of the
Right.
home. And then you may have a brother, a sister, or some other family member living in the lower level, sometimes even more. So you've got the grandparents, you've got the kids, you've got their kids, and maybe a sibling all living under one roof. So our Morgan model fits the bill for that right out of the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's all kinds of derivations from that. But
Right.
I think one thing that you spoke about, and maybe peripherally, just was the fact that we started to get feedback that we just kept putting more plans and plans and plans online.
Yes.
And we always are concerned about fatigue.
Yes.
Buyer fatigue.
Buyer fatigue. Yeah.
Right. So what we said is, let's limit the plans. We have a huge library of plans.
Mm-hmm.
So at least whet your appetite. And, many popular plans are online, but we have many more plans.
Right.
And once we listen to our customers' needs, we may say, hey, migrate from plan X to plan Y because
Right.
it better fits your needs.
Right. Exactly.
We're not going to not speak about that during our
Exactly.
meetings.
Exactly. So the point of our meeting is we meet, we talk. What is it you like about the house? What is it you don't like about the house? And if there's another model that works better,
Right.
we'll migrate in that
Or
direction.
just, what are your needs?
Right.
And you and I will be like, oh, they need this, this, and this. Oh, well, there's that house. But you know what? There's these two other houses that they don't even know about.
Right.
And we pull them up.
Exactly.
So,
Great.
works out
So
well.
so let's talk about the free rec room.
Right.
And let's talk about, so you mentioned it earlier, we've worked with our trades to include that in the base price. So how does that work and what's going on with that?
Good question. So we've negotiated with our trades to incorporate their same basic unit costs for the lower level rec room, and finagle some things here and there, and said, let's just go ahead and put that into the cost of the base house,
Right.
for a limited time. So it's not transferable, right? So it's almost like, I'm trying to think, if you built like you said, the Morgan, and you had a first and a second floor. Oh, well, we don't really want the second floor. I was like, well, you wouldn't build the Morgan, right?
Right. So the question
So-
we're getting is, can I take the rec room out and use that money somewhere else? And we can't.
No, it's a rec room incentive for those that appreciate the space.
Right. Configured with our trade partners.
Right. And I would say 80% of our buyers want and or select the rec room. So we're
Right.
not doing something that
people
isn't
don't want.
popular.
Right.
We're listening to our
Exactly.
customers and responding.
Yep. Okay. And so we don't know how long that's going to last, but we've worked it out with our trades. We have it at least through, at this point, at the time of this conversation, around Halloween. So we'll figure out what happens after that. But I think it's a nice incentive. People need the space, and we appreciate our trade partners working with us on that.
And it takes some pressure off of our customers.
It does.
Price pressure. So
Yeah.
where everything else seems to be going up, we're trying to bend in the other direction.
Exactly. Great. Well, Mike, thanks for coming in again. We appreciate your time. And this concludes another episode of the Go with John show. Go out there and build something extraordinary.
There you go. Go, John.
See ya. All right, man. See you, Mike.